The crystal towers of Axiom Prime sparkled like diamonds against the dark space. 3 suns cast their light on the peaceful world where the most important beings in the galaxy met every day. This was the home of the Galactic Confederation, where peace had lasted for over 400 years. Commander Tae-ho Kim walked slowly through the observation deck of the Deep Space Monitoring Station. His dark eyes watched the council meeting below through the clear glass walls. The alien representatives sat in perfect circles, just like they had done every day for centuries. Everything was calm. Everything was ordered. Everything was exactly as it should be. The Zephyrians looked like living statues made of blue crystal. When they spoke, their voices made beautiful singing sounds that echoed through the chamber. They had been the first to sign the Treaty of Eternal Harmony 412 years ago. Since then, not a single war had been fought in their part of the galaxy. Next to them sat the Karathi, strange insect-like creatures who moved together like dancers. They thought with one shared mind, making decisions that helped everyone. Their brown shells gleamed under the soft lights as they nodded in agreement with the Zephyrians. The most mysterious members were the Luminals. They looked like floating balls of pure light that could disappear and reappear whenever they wanted. No one really understood how they lived or what they were made of, but they were very smart and helped solve the hardest problems. "Another peaceful day," said Dr. Somin Park as she joined Tae-ho at the observation window. She was a small woman with kind eyes who studied how different alien species lived together. The grain trade argument between the Karathi and the Vex Empire was solved in only 4 hours today, much faster than last week. Tae-ho nodded, but he seemed worried about something. "The faster we solve problems, the more I wonder if we are missing something important." "What do you mean?" Somin asked. "Look at them." Tae-ho pointed to the aliens below. "They follow the same rules, use the same methods, think the same thoughts they did centuries ago. Nothing ever changes. Is that really peace, or is it just sleeping?" Before Somin could answer, a loud beeping sound came from the monitoring station. Technician Jae-wook Lee was staring at his computer screen with wide eyes. "Commander Kim, you need to see this," Jae-wook called out. His voice was excited and scared at the same time. Tae-ho and Somin hurried over to the monitoring station. The screen showed a map of their galaxy with thousands of small lights marking different star systems. Most of the lights were green, meaning peaceful worlds. Some were yellow for developing planets. A few red ones marked dangerous areas that ships should avoid. But in the outer edge of the galaxy, in a place that should have been empty, new lights were appearing. They blinked rapidly, changing from white to blue to red and back again. "What are those signals?" Tae-ho asked. "That's the strange part," Jae-wook replied, touching the screen to make the picture bigger. "The signals are coming from a region we marked as primitive worlds 50 years ago. Back then, the most advanced species there had just discovered fire. But these energy readings..." He paused and ran his hand through his black hair. "Commander, these readings suggest technology that should take thousands of years to develop, but they're appearing in just months." Somin frowned. "That's impossible. No species advances that quickly. The Zephyrians took 10,000 years to build their first spacecraft. The Karathi needed 5,000 years to develop their shared mind technology." "I know," Jae-wook said, "but the signals keep getting stronger every day. Whatever is out there is learning and building faster than anything we've ever seen." Tae-ho studied the blinking lights on the screen. Something deep in his stomach told him this was important. Very important. "Have you reported this to the council?" he asked. "Not yet," Jae-wook replied. "I wanted to be sure first. But Commander, there's something else. The signals aren't just random, they seem to be exploring, like someone is testing different technologies very quickly." Down in the council chamber, the alien representatives continued their quiet discussions about trade routes and cultural exchanges. They had no idea that something was happening in the dark corners of the galaxy. Something that might change everything. Tae-ho made his decision. "File a report with the council immediately. Mark it as high-priority investigation required." "Should I recommend sending a scout ship?" Jae-wook asked. "Yes, but tell them to be careful. If a species can advance this quickly, They might be dangerous. Or, Tejo paused, looking at the rapidly changing signals on the screen. They might be something we've never seen before. As the three humans watched the mysterious lights dance across their screen, none of them knew that these signals were coming from a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. A planet whose inhabitants had just discovered something amazing hidden near their largest moon. A planet called Earth. The age of perfect peace was about to end, but nobody in the Galactic Confederation knew it yet. The human ship appeared out of nowhere, like a ghost made of metal and fire. Captain Sung-Ho Lee gripped his chair as his vessel, the UES Defiant, shook violently from the dangerous jump through space. Red warning lights flashed across the bridge as his crew worked to fix the damaged systems. "Captain, we have a problem," called out Communications Officer Hana Yoon from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the glowing buttons. "There are ships surrounding us. Big ones." Sung-Ho looked at the main screen and saw 6 enormous vessels floating around his small exploration ship. They were unlike anything he had ever seen. The ships looked like they were made of blue crystal, beautiful but frightening at the same time. "Are they trying to talk to us?" Sung-Ho asked. "Yes, but I can't understand anything," Hana replied, frustrated. "They're sending messages in languages that sound like music and math mixed together. My computer can't translate any of it." The human ship was tiny compared to the alien vessels. It was built for exploring, not fighting. Sung-Ho knew they had no choice but to try to communicate. "Keep trying," he ordered. "Use everything we learned from that strange object we found near Jupiter." 3 months ago, human scientists had discovered an ancient alien device floating in space near Jupiter. It was covered in symbols and patterns that seemed to tell a story about the galaxy. Dr. Min-Soo Park, who was with them on this mission, had spent weeks studying it. "Captain," Dr. Min-Soo said from his science station, "I think I can help Hana." The artifact had sound patterns similar to what these aliens are using. Working together, Hana and Min-Soo managed to connect their ship's computer to the ancient artifact's data. Within 20 minutes, they had created a basic way to talk with the crystal ships. It was rough and simple, but it worked. "This is Captain Sung-Ho Lee of the Earthship Defiant," he spoke into his communicator. "We are peaceful explorers from the planet Earth." The reply came as a series of beautiful musical notes that their computer turned into words. "You will follow us immediately. Do not resist or you will be destroyed." The crystal ships guided the human vessel to a massive space station that looked like a floating city. Sung-Ho had never seen anything so big or amazing. Thousands of different alien ships moved around, it like tiny insects around a bright light. Soon, Sung-Ho, Min-Soo, and Hana found themselves standing in the largest room they had ever seen. The walls were made of the same blue crystal as the ships, and they glowed with soft light. Hundreds of different alien creatures sat in organized rows, all staring at the 3 humans. The most impressive alien stood at the center. It was twice as tall as a human and looked like it was carved from a single piece of blue diamond. When it spoke, its voice filled the entire room with beautiful music. "I am Chief Counselor Vextar of the Galactic Confederation," the crystal being said. "You are from a species we call developing. By our laws, you must return to your home planet immediately and stay there until you become civilized." Dr. Min-Soo stepped forward. He was a quiet man who usually spent his time reading books and studying data, but now he spoke with confidence. "We appreciate your concern," Min-Soo said politely, "but we never agreed to follow your laws. Earth was never asked about these rules you made for the galaxy." The entire room became silent. Even the strange humming sounds that came from the alien technology stopped. Every creature in the chamber stared at the small human who had just said something. Impossible. Chief Counselor Vexitar's crystal body began to glow brighter. "No species has ever refused our guidance. Your kind shows dangerous signs of chaos. You advance too quickly, think too differently. You must be contained for the safety of all." "We prefer to call it creative," Min-Soo replied calmly, "and we respectfully refuse your containment." Hana watched as the alien representatives began making agitated sounds. Some clicked their claws, others buzzed their wings. and the crystal beings sang worried notes. She realized that these creatures were used to everyone obeying their rules. Without question, Captain Sung-ho joined the conversation. "We came here by accident while exploring space near our home. We didn't know about your confederation or your rules. We're willing to talk and learn, but we won't be prisoners." "Your species is too unpredictable," Vextar responded, his musical voice becoming deeper and more serious. "In 400 years of peace, no species has ever developed technology as quickly as yours. You found ways to communicate with us in minutes, not years. This is not normal." "Maybe normal isn't always good," Hana said quietly, but her voice carried clearly through the silent chamber. The chief counselor's crystal form pulsed with different colors. "You will return to your system and wait for proper evaluation. This decision is final." Dr. Minsu looked directly at the towering alien leader. "Thank you for your offer, but our answer is no." For the first time in 4 centuries of galactic peace, someone had spoken the forbidden word in the Confederation Council. The word that could change everything. The word was no. 3 months had passed since the humans refused to obey the Confederation's orders. During those 3 months, the galaxy experienced something it had not seen in centuries. Chaos. Captain Hyuna Kim stood on the bridge of her cargo ship, staring at the massive alien blockade in front of her. 50 Confederation warships floated, in perfect formation, blocking the way to the Karathi homeworld. Behind those ships, millions of insect-like aliens were dying from a terrible disease. "Captain, the Confederation fleet is ordering us to turn back," reported her pilot, Youngjin Park. "They say the Karathi plague zone is off-limits to all ships." Hyuna looked at the medical supplies filling her cargo hold. Human doctors had created new medicines that might save the dying Karathi, but the Confederation said it was too dangerous to try. "Tell them we're going through anyway," Hyuna said firmly. "But Captain, they have 50 warships, and we have, well, us." Hyuna smiled. "Sometimes that's enough." She flew her small ship directly toward the blockade. When the Confederation commander demanded she stop, she simply replied, "People are dying, and we have medicine. The math is simple." The alien commander was confused. In 400 years, no one had ever ignored a Confederation blockade. He didn't know what to do when someone simply said they were going to help people regardless of the rules. While the commander tried to decide whether to shoot a medical ship, Hyuna flew past the entire fleet and landed on the Karathi homeworld. The Karathi had given up hope. Their shared mind, which usually helped them work together, was breaking apart as millions died. But when the human medicines began working, something amazing happened. The plague stopped spreading, and the sick aliens began to recover. For the first time in their history, the Karathi thanked someone for breaking Confederation law. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, engineer Wu Jin Nam was looking at the biggest puzzle in known space. The luminals, beings made of pure energy, were slowly disappearing. Their greatest scientists had worked on the problem for over a century but found no solution. Wu Jin walked around the massive quantum machines that kept the luminals stable. The alien technology was so advanced that most species couldn't even understand how it worked. But to Wu Jin, it looked like any other broken machine. "Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on?" he asked the lead luminal scientist, the energy being flickered with what might have been anger. "That suggestion is insulting to our intelligence. We have tried every possible scientific solution." "But have you tried the simple solution?" Wu Jin insisted. The luminals had spent so much time thinking about complex answers that they had forgotten to try simple ones. When Wu Jin connected his basic human fusion generator to their quantum stabilizer and performed a reset, something incredible happened. The energy decay that had plagued the luminals for centuries simply stopped. The solution that had puzzled the galaxy's greatest minds for 100 years was solved by a human engineer in 6 weeks using primitive technology and common sense. But the event that really shook the galaxy happened near the Zephyrian homeworld. The Scarn Empire had been contained by Confederation military power for 3 centuries. They were a warrior race that respected only strength. but they had learned to fear the overwhelming peacekeeping forces of the galaxy. Until now. Supreme War Leader Thakmor looked at his invasion fleet with pride. 200 of the most powerful warships ever built, armed with weapons that could destroy planets. The Confederation had grown soft during their long peace. It was time for warriors to rule again. The attack on the Zephyrian homeworld began at dawn. The Scarn fleet overwhelmed the defense stations with pure brutality, something the peaceful Confederation had forgotten how to handle. As crystal cities burned below, it seemed like the age of peace was truly ending. Then Lieutenant Commander Do-hyun Park arrived. His ship was tiny compared to the massive Scarn vessels. It was a simple human frigate with basic weapons and a crew of only 30 people. Any sane person would have retreated immediately. Instead, Do-hyun did something that broke every rule of space combat ever written. He flew his small ship directly at the Scarn flagship while broadcasting children's music at maximum volume. At the same time, he spun his vessel in seemingly random patterns like a child's toy spinning through space. Supreme War Leader Thakmor stared at his screens in complete confusion. "What is that tiny ship doing?" "Unknown," War Leader replied. His tactical officer. "Their movements make no sense. There is no honor in such behavior." The Scarn were bred for glorious combat against worthy enemies. They had detailed strategies for every type of space battle. But they had no idea how to fight someone who acted like they were playing a game instead of fighting a war. While the Scarn fleet hesitated, trying to understand what the human was doing, Do-hyun fired modified mining charges at the flagship's engines. The explosions disabled the massive ship without killing anyone aboard. Combat is about winning, Do-hyun explained to the stunned Confederation fleet that arrived later. Everything else is just rules that someone made up. The galaxy realized something that terrified and amazed them. Humans didn't break the rules of civilization. They simply didn't know the rules existed in the first place. The Confederation's perfect world was falling apart piece by piece. Doctor. Somin Park watched from her office window as alien species across the galaxy began doing something they had never done before, thinking for themselves. On the planet below, she could see Karathi workers building strange new structures. For thousands of years, the insect-like aliens had built everything the same way, following patterns decided by their shared mind. But now individual Karathi were creating buildings that looked different from each other. They called it individual creativity protocols. "It's spreading everywhere," reported her assistant, Jin Woo Choi, as he studied reports from across the galaxy. "The Zephyrians are growing their crystal cities in random patterns instead of perfect geometric shapes. They say they're experimenting with chaotic innovation." So Min nodded sadly. As Earth's main representative to the Confederation, she had tried to help both sides understand each other. But the more humans helped other species, the more the old peaceful order crumbled. "What about the luminals?" she asked. "They're the worst," Jinwoo replied. "They've started something they call uncertainty principles. Instead of spending decades planning every decision, they're making choices quickly and changing them if they don't work." The communication device on Somin's desk buzzed with an urgent message. Captain Sung-ho's face appeared on the screen, calling from his ship near the ancient archives on Axiom Prime. "So-min, you need to see what we found," Sung-ho said, his voice excited and worried at the same time. "That artifact from Jupiter wasn't just some old piece of technology. It's a warning." So-min leaned forward. "What kind of warning?" "The best kind," Sung-ho replied. "The kind that tells you exactly what not to do." 2 hours later, So-min stood in the deep archives beneath Axiom Prime, looking at holographic images that showed the history of the galaxy from millions of years ago. The Jupiter artifact had unlocked records that had been hidden for so long that even the Confederation had forgotten they existed. "Meet the architects," Dr. Minsu said as he operated the ancient viewing device. "They ruled the galaxy long before any of our current species developed intelligence." The holographic images showed a civilization that was even more advanced than the current Confederation. The architects had achieved perfect order across thousands of star systems. Every problem had a solution, Every conflict had a procedure. Every species followed the same rules without question. They sound exactly like the Confederation, Somin observed. That's because the Confederation copied their system, Minsu explained. But look what happened to the architects. The images changed to show the architects' final years. When their home star began to die, they had all the technology needed to move to new worlds. But their society had become so rigid that they couldn't adapt. They had procedures for everything except change itself. They followed their extinction protocols perfectly, Minsu said quietly. Every step was approved by the proper committees. Every decision went through the correct channels. They died in perfect order. So-Min felt cold inside as she understood. The artifact was placed as a warning beacon. Yes, but it needed a specific type of species to activate it, Sung-Ho added. A species curious enough to investigate strange objects but reckless enough to actually touch them. A species that would act first and ask permission later. A species like humans, So-Min whispered. Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the archives. Jin Woo's voice came through the emergency communicator. Dr. Park, you need to return immediately. The Confederation Council has issued an ultimatum to Earth. An hour later, So-Min stood in the Great Council chamber as Chief Counselor Vexitar's crystal form pulsed with angry red light. Representatives from dozens of species filled the chamber, all of them agitated and fearful. The chaos spreads daily, Vexitar declared, his musical voice now harsh and discordant. Species abandon traditions that kept peace for centuries. Wars threaten to break out in 17 sectors. The Scarn Empire grows bold again, believing our unity is broken. Murmurs of agreement echoed from the assembled aliens. So-Min could see fear in their strange faces. They had lived in perfect peace for so long that even small changes terrified them. Earth must recall all its citizens from Confederation space immediately, Vexitar continued. Your species will submit to complete civilizing protocols or face total isolation from galactic society. So-Min stepped forward calmly. And if we refuse? Then you will face the full military might of the Confederation, Vexitar replied. 400 species united against one chaotic world. The chamber fell silent as everyone waited for Earth's response. So-Min activated her communicator and connected directly to Sol Command on Earth. General Park Hyung-sik's weathered face appeared on the large screen above the assembly. General, the Confederation demands our complete surrender or they will wage war against Earth, So-Min reported. General Park was quiet for a moment, then smiled. Dr. Park, please give the Confederation our official response. So-Min turned to face the hundreds of alien representatives. Sol Command says, thank you for the offer, but we respectfully decline. We're happy to work with you as equals, but we won't be ruled by anyone. Chief Counselor Vexitar's crystal form flickered with confusion. In all their centuries of perfect peace, no one had ever chosen war over order. The age of certainty was ending, and nobody knew what would come next. 6 months had passed since Earth refused the Confederation's ultimatum, and the galaxy looked completely different. Ambassador Yoon-Ji Lee stood at the podium in the Great Assembly Hall of New Axiom, looking out at the most unusual gathering in galactic history. The old, rigid seating arrangements were gone. Instead of species sitting in separate sections based on rank and protocol, aliens mixed together in small groups that changed based on what they were discussing. A Karathi engineer sat next to a human pilot, both working on star charts. Zephyrian, artists shared designs with luminal energy sculptors. The Terraforming Collective has some amazing news to share, Yoon-Ji announced to the assembly. Commander Tae-Ho Kim, please give us your report. Tae-Ho stood up from a mixed group of humans and aliens. 6 months ago, he had been monitoring the galaxy's perfect peace from a distant station. Now he led the most successful project in galactic history. We have brought 17 dead worlds back to life, Tae-Ho said, his voice filled with pride. The Karathi taught us how to work with soil and living things. Humans showed them how to adapt quickly when problems came up. Together, we did what each species thought was impossible alone. The assembly erupted in a mixture of cheers, Musical chimes, harmonic vibrations, and energy pulses. It was loud and chaotic, but somehow beautiful. Dr. So-Min Park stood up next. The communication project has even better news. We can now send messages instantly across 3 entire galaxy arms. The Luminals provided the energy knowledge, and humans figured out how to make it work with simple equipment. Young Jin Park, the pilot who had helped Captain Hyun-ae break the Karathi blockade, raised his hand. And we've made contact with friendly species from the Andromeda Galaxy. They want to trade knowledge and culture with us. Former Chief Counselor Vextar, who now worked as a cultural advisor instead of a supreme ruler, chimed softly from his place in the mixed seating. His crystal form had changed from the harsh red of anger to a gentle blue of contentment. We spent 4 centuries avoiding change, Vextar admitted. We were so afraid of conflict that we forgot how to grow. In 6 months working with humans, we have achieved more progress than in our entire recorded history. Captain Sung-ho entered the assembly hall just as Vextar finished speaking. He commanded the first truly integrated exploration fleet in galactic history, with crews mixing humans and aliens on every ship. His uniform was practical rather than ceremonial, marked with repairs from dangerous missions to unknown regions of space. The Defense Initiative has something important to report, Sung-ho announced. The Scarn Empire has officially requested to join our alliance. Shocked murmurs filled the hall. The Scarn had been the galaxy's greatest threat for centuries, contained only by the Confederation's overwhelming military power. Supreme War Leader Thakmor says his people are tired of fighting the same old battles, Sung-ho continued. When Lieutenant Commander Do-hyun showed them that combat could be creative instead of just destructive, it changed their entire culture. They want to use their warrior skills to protect new colonies and explore dangerous regions. Engineer Woojin Nam stood up from the crowd. The man who had solved the luminal energy crisis with simple human technology now led the galaxy's most advanced research projects. The innovation centers are producing incredible results, Woojin reported. When different species share their knowledge freely instead of keeping secrets, we solve problems faster than anyone thought possible. We're developing technology that none of us could have created alone. Dr. Minsu Park, who had first refused, the Confederation's authority, walked to the center of the assembly. But the most important change isn't in our technology or our politics. It's in how we think about problems. He gestured to the mixed groups of aliens and humans working together. Throughout the hall, the old Confederation tried to prevent problems by making rules for everything. We've learned that it's better to solve problems creatively when they appear. Ambassador Yoon-ji returned to the podium for her closing remarks. 6 months ago, many of you thought humans would destroy galactic peace. But peace didn't end when Earth got involved. It finally learned how to grow. The assembly erupted again in their chaotic but beautiful mixture of sounds. Through the great windows of New Axiom, ships from 100 different worlds worked together in space, building new stations and exploring uncharted regions. Captain Hyun-ae Kim watched from the observation deck as a joint human Karathi medical ship departed for a plague outbreak in a distant system. Next to it, a Zephyrian human research vessel prepared to investigate strange signals from beyond the galaxy's edge. A mixed crew of former Scarn warriors and human engineers tested new defensive technologies that could protect colonies without destroying enemies. The old Confederation had lasted 400 years by avoiding change. The new dynamic accords had achieved more progress in 6 months by embracing change as a tool for growth. As the assembly continued its chaotic but productive discussions, everyone understood that they were witnessing the birth of something unprecedented. A civilization based not on preventing conflict, but on using the creative energy that came from different minds working together. The age of perfect order was over. The age of creative chaos had begun, and the galaxy was finally alive again.